Hey everyone, Rob B here with Rob D. Let's face it, AI, everyone's talking about it, but rightly so, because it is changing our world. But AI is going to transform the property industry. And in this week's episode, we tell you everything you need to know about AI and property.
Welcome to the Property Podcast, where we take time out from advising a multi-million-pound property fund, which you can learn about at portfolio.co.uk, and putting together hundreds of transactions every year, and we bring you some of the knowledge that we've gained along the way for free. We've been obsessed with AI over the last few months. We've been talking about it endlessly among ourselves, and most importantly, we've started putting it to use to save us time and getting better results in our business. And in this episode, you're going to learn how to do exactly the same.
Rob, this week's news story is a slightly unusual one, and the show note says, "Old lady sells property." What's going on?
Yeah, that would not work as a BuzzFeed headline, would it? This is a story from the BBC about a lady who lived in the same house for 102 years and has finally sold it. So her parents bought the house originally for £200 in the 1920s, and it recently sold for just under 170,000. So not a bad return there. I actually worked out the numbers, and that is compound growth of about 7% per year, which compares really well to inflation, which averages about 4% a year compounded. So obviously, when you take anything from a long time ago, it sounds kind of quaintly cheap. That's not really the story. And I'm sure when they bought that property for £200, just like the sheer number, 170,000, would have absolutely blown their minds. But even after taking inflation into account, turned out to be a very good investment.
A quick update before we get going on our crowdfunding campaign, which is just going from strength to strength. It's absolutely phenomenal. We're about to go public, so people get ready for your stake in our business. It's about to happen. It goes live next Tuesday. Set your alarm clocks. Make sure you are ready, because last time it closed quickly and we oversubscribed at a rapid rate and lots of people missed out. But the way not to miss out, the way to give you the best chance of getting involved and joining us on this amazing journey is by getting on the pre-reg list. You still have time. If you go to propertyhub.net/crowdfund, that's propertyhub.net/crowdfund, you can get on the pre-register list. It has smashed what we did last time in terms of pre-registrations. So that is very exciting. It's amazing that so many of you are so keen on what we do and want to, get closer to what we do and be part of it, basically, because that's what you will be. You'll be part of it by having a stake in all of our businesses. And if that wasn't enough, on Tuesday, we'll be also releasing a number of perks. Yeah, we did this last time and it was really popular, but a number of perks for those people who invest, and it changes what you get for what you invest, but it's all very exciting. So make sure you check that out as well. So propertyhub.net/crowdfund. And then from Tuesday, it will be on the Seeders platform, so you need to go there. But it is very close to happening. We'll, of course, update you on how we get on. But so far, so good. Amazing. Thank you. We love the support. It's incredible. We shouldn't be surprised every time you kind of blow what you did last time out of the water. But you have, and you've done it again, and it's awesome. Thank you, guys.
A couple of times on the show in the past, we've talked about artificial intelligence, and we shared a couple of resources in Hub Extra that will allow you to start exploring it. But over the last couple of months, AI has gone mainstream. Everywhere I go, everyone is talking about AI. And in particular, talking about ChatGPT, which is the fastest growing technology product of all time. Faster than Facebook, TikTok, you name it. Everyone is using it, talking about, trying to get to grips with what it means for them. So in this episode, of course, we are going to be applying artificial intelligence to property investment. How can you make use of it to make your life as a property investor better and easier? We're going to share some ideas and some specific tips that you can use to get the most out of it. Because like any tool, it's how you use it that matters. So Rob, before we get into the specific use cases, for anyone who's just heard about AI but hasn't yet dabbled with it themselves, what's all the fuss about? Because I know you've got super excited about it and we've had lots of long conversations about it. But what makes this more than just a novelty? What's got you so excited?
I'm going to lay a marker right from the beginning for this episode, Rob. And I'm going to say something that some people may think is a bit sensational, but I truly believe it. AI is as big of an invention as the internet or the mobile phone. That's how much of an impact it's going to have on our lives. It's absolutely huge. For those who don't know much about AI, it's nothing like the movies you've seen. We're not going to have a war with robots anytime soon. It's a tool that will make many areas of your life so much easier. So ChatGPT is a great example. And as Rob's mentioned, it's one of many AI tools, but it is the most famous, and rightly so, because it's incredible. So what is ChatGPT and how can you use it? Well, it's a piece of software that you can ask it questions and it gives you answers, but not just average answers, really super useful answers. And with anything in life, really, the better your questions, the better your answers. So let me give you an example of its power because it's incredible. So I could say to ChatGPT, write me a 2,000-word essay on the history of Dunkirk. And it would write that for me in seconds. And that's pretty cool, right? But how about this? My son actually had some homework to do on Dunkirk. And no, he actually did his own work. But once he'd done it, I showed him ChatGPT. And I said to ChatGPT, write me a 500-word essay about the history of Dunkirk as if it was written by a 10-year-old. And the whole language changed. The way it presented itself and the information given was completely different to the 2,000-word essay. And that's one of many reasons why I'm so excited. Because with AI, the limitation is not really the software, it's you. How creative can you be with your questions to get the very best out of it? And we're going to help you, because in this episode, we're going to help you with things that you could do in property. But I'm sure it will also give you ideas of things you could do elsewhere in your life as well. So, Rob, yes, you're right. I am ridiculously excited about this. But let's get into the nitty-gritty. Let's start dishing out the value. What can you use it for in property?
Well, before we start getting into the really clever stuff, you can just ask it questions about property investment. You can ask it for guidance about strategy. You can ask it for tips. I know a minute ago, just before we started recording, you asked it for some property tips. It might be worth reading a couple out just to show that what it comes up with is actually pretty good.
Yeah, so I asked, I'm interested in UK property investment. Please give me 10 tips. And yes, I did say please to an AA bot, but my mum brought me up right, so I'm still polite to computers. And here are some of the responses. Research the market before investing in property. Research the market to understand the current trends and demands in the area you plan to invest in. 2. Location is key. Location is one of the most important factors in property investment. Look for properties in prime locations that are close to amenities such as transport links, shops and schools. Rob, does that sound familiar? That is scary.
Well, this is it. I think it's when you see the wording that it really hits home how amazing this is, because the output doesn't sound like it's written by a machine. It sounds like something you might have heard on a popular podcast. It's not far off being a script that we could just read out. And it makes sense because the reason that it knows stuff is it's been trained off a massive amount of data that's pulled from the internet. And what it does such a good job at is understanding what you want in your question and coming back and giving you a highly relevant answer. But you can take this a step further as well. ChatGPT can write you a property business plan. If you type in, make me a business plan for investing in UK property, it'll give you a business plan with a table of contents and projections and risk factors and all sorts. Is that something you could just take and start applying? Of course not. It doesn't know you or what you're trying to do, and it's not really an expert in property, but it gives you a template that you can then use to start adapting for your own use. Also, you get mortgage brokers sometimes asking you to submit a business plan if you're a portfolio landlord. Well, it's just done your homework for you. You might have left school a long time ago, but you still, sometimes in life, end up being given homework, and that's a very easy way to get it done. But it goes beyond that, Rob.
Oh, it does. So, emails, correspondence, estate agents emailing you, letting agents, tenants maybe? Well, take that email, put it into ChatGPT and ask it to reply. But you could want it in a certain tone. So if a tenant is going through a troublesome period, you could ask it to write a reply, making these key points in a sympathetic tone. And it will do it in a sympathetic tone. It is unbelievable, the quality. Now, will it get each and every email 100% right? No, but it'll get close and it'll save you a lot of work. So emails is a great one. But Rob, writing on any level is so much easier now. You could, for example, use it for property listings.
Yeah, there's a video that we recorded on this topic, which we'll talk about when we get to Hub Extra. But this is one of the tasks that I gave it. I just said, I've got a 2-bedroom flat in Manchester, in the city centre, write me a property listing. And what it came up with was better than the vast majority of letting agents would do. Obviously, I didn't give it much information, so it just made up a load of stuff. And that's actually a strength and a potential risk factor of this, which we'll come to later. But it does just improvise, and it understands the style that you're going for, so it knows that you're trying to sell something. So it starts putting in points about the convenience for commuting and how great it would be to have friends around, and like talking to lifestyle points like that. Again, because it is just making stuff up, you wouldn't want to just use it as is. But how much easier is it to take that and then amend it to the specifics of your property? than to just stare at a blank page and have to start from scratch. Maybe if you're self-managing and you're super busy, you've got to get this task done in 15 minutes. That's all you've got. If you're starting from nothing and you only had 15 minutes, you'd probably get to something not very inspiring. But if within the first 30 seconds you had a really great starting point, then with 15 minutes of refining, you could end up with something really, really good. So there's a bit of a theme here, Rob, which is that it's not necessarily just going to give you the answer and you paste it in and that's that. But for getting you started, it's incredible. You might not know it, but in the background to this podcast, we run a business called Property Hub Invest that helps investors build portfolios. We use relationships that we have with some of the UK's best developers to secure properties at a discount and make the whole process super hands-off. So if you want to invest in high-quality properties for the long term and not take up any of your time doing it, then you can check out Property Hub Invest at propertyhub.net/invest.
It's not just ChatGPT. There are AI platforms popping up left, right, and centre at the moment. And Rob, it's exciting, and I've not played around with these as much. I've done some image generation stuff, which we could possibly talk about, but you could do photo editing, and you can even create short videos. What have you seen out there, and what have you started to use a little bit?
Yeah, we'll link to a couple of resources in the show notes. So like you said, the image creation that you can do with AI is pretty incredible, but kind of basic photo editing, like take this photo, remove this background object, lighten it up, all that kind of thing, is just getting far, far better. So that's great for things like property listings as well. There are also tools to help you make short videos. Maybe you've got a set of really short video clips that you've taken on your phone. You can just pop those in along with some text and it'll automatically turn it into a video for you that looks really nice, has good transitions, got background music. It even subtitles it for you. And tools a bit like this have been around for a long time, but they've always been a bit rubbish and they're still not amazing. Again, it doesn't just give you something that you'd be happy to use immediately. But for the average person who doesn't have a video editor on staff, but they just want to make their listing stand out a bit more or whatever, it's amazing. So I'd say that text is where it's furthest ahead right now, but we're seeing more and more tools coming out and more advances being made all the time. So it's one of those things, Rob, where even in a year, which isn't a long time, I think we'll be looking back at what's possible now and thinking how primitive it is, even though today it's mind-blowing.
It is mind-blowing, and we could just give you an example after example, but here's another one, the image generation you could do. There's a piece of AI software called DALL-E 2, and you type in man standing on a hill wearing a purple hat looking really happy, and it will create an image like that. So my son's homework was to create a poster for his school. So we got the AI to create an image of school children standing next to a lion, holding up a blank poster. It created it, and not only created one, it created multiple options. And we kept refining it until we were happy. And all he had to do then is fill in the poster after it was all printed out. It's just incredible. But it all comes down to you and what you put in. So let's get to that, because let's help you get the most out of this. Because if you are lazy with your prompts, then you will get pretty rubbish responses. So if you type in, help me with property investment, then the response you get is probably not going to be great. So a first step would be, if you are wanting it region specific, whether property or anything else, tell it. So when I asked for the tips earlier, I told ChatGPT that I was interested in UK property investments. So if there's anything region specific there, it made sure it was UK based. And being more specific in general is really important. So Rob, you talked about the property listing, but if you'd given it more information, it would have done even a better job. So if you'd said some key points are, it has good natural light, comes with a concierge service, and is furnished, then it would have done an even better job. And that's really important, is the detail that you go into.
Yeah, exactly. And for that particular example, a bit of a hack could be, if you bought a property and you've got the listing for sale, you can just paste in that entire listing with all the details and just say, write me a rental listing based on this. And it'll have all the information and it'll transform it into something that's suitable for a rental listing. So if you've got the information already, then all the better. But even if you have to put it in yourself, it still saves loads of time. So for the example of a business plan, you could put in the amount of money you'll be investing, the regions you'll be looking at, your objectives. You could even say what mortgage rate you anticipate being able to get, and you can factor that into all its figures. The more you give it, the better the results you'll get out. And if you don't get the results that you wanted first time, then that's fine. You can either go back and rewrite your prompt. Oh, okay, it's gone off on this tangent. I'll ask again, but give it this piece of information that will stop it from doing that. Or you can take its output and give it a follow-up command. So you can say, add more detail about this, or make it shorter, or include a list of bullet points. I think the point, Rob, of giving it more and telling it what you want and working with what it gives you back is so important, because you do get people talking about AI as if it's magic, and it is amazing, but you don't want to just kind of put in something lazy and go, that's not that great, and give up on the whole thing. You do have to put some work in, but the leverage that it gives you, the results you get out for that small amount of effort are just phenomenal.
That's it, Rob. But if you are struggling, ask it. Ask it what it needs. So this is a bit of a hack I've discovered recently. With that business plan, if you really are struggling to think of the information you might want to give it, ask it for the type of information it benefit from, because you can teach it. The more information you give it, the more it will give you back. So I put into ChatGPT, I want you to write a business plan on UK property investment. What would you need from me to make it better? And it gave me 7 different things to make it better. And I'll summarize it because there's a bit here. But number 1 was business overview. So it's asking for your vision and your goals. 2 was market analysis. It wants to know the current state of the UK property market. The 3rd was, what's your strategy? Are you looking at residential, commercial, industrial? Because that's important, right? Property investment, so many variants. ChatGPT doesn't know what you're going for, but by asking it what it needs, you can quickly go, okay, here's 1-line answers to all those things. Now write me a business plan. And the quality of what you will get then would be incredible. So even if you aren't a naturally creative person and you don't know what to ask ChatGPT, well then get it to tell you, because it'll do that for you as well. And Rob, I think hopefully now it's coming across to people why we are so excited, because the potential is just outstanding, and it's only just started.
It really is. There are a couple of things you need to be aware of, though, if you're going to dig into this. So the first one, as we said earlier, is that it's been trained on a huge volume of information that's been pulled from the internet, but that happened on a certain date, and it gets updated, but it was some point in mid to late 2022 is the last date that it has any knowledge of. It doesn't connect to the internet to give you answers. Microsoft's Bing actually is a new tool that can, and that's a resource that I've started digging into recently and can talk about more on a future episode. But ChatGPT has a knowledge cutoff date. So in Rob's example, it actually said, tell me what the current state of the property market is, because it doesn't know, it only knows what it was last year. So you always have to consider the limitation that if it's about something fast moving, its knowledge will be out of date. The other thing to be aware of is that it sounds confident even when it's wrong. So it'll never come back and say, I don't know. Or, maybe this, but I'm not sure. It'll always give you an answer that sounds completely confident. If it doesn't know the answer, it will just make stuff up. So I think our politicians should be very worried because someone's coming for their jobs. But from your point of view as a user, it means you've got to know something about the subject yourself to validate whether what it's giving you is correct or not. So if you start asking it legal questions about, my tenant's done such and such, what can I do about it? Or what's the legal position on this? It'll give you an answer that sounds like the absolute 100% stone cold truth on the matter, but it may just not have that piece of knowledge and entirely made something up. So you do need to be a little bit careful. So all in all, I'd say just spend 15 minutes playing around with this. Start with ChatGPT because it's probably the most immediately accessible and impressive, and just see what it can do, especially if you help it out. I'm pretty convinced that within that space of time, if you're feeling either left completely cold and not sure what all the fuss is about, or even intimidated or scared by what AI means for everyone, that'll be enough to shift you to a point of being excited. And we've given you some ideas, but you'll be able to think of at least 1 or 2 things in your own life where it can save you a significant amount of time and get you some better results. We've done that in this episode. The title of this episode that you clicked on, we didn't write that. How long will it be before it can write a script for us and use AI voices to mean we can have a lie-in on a Monday? It might not take that long. And just a quick one for Hub Extra this week. We always like to give you a little bit more. And this week we've got a resource that follows directly on from what we've just been talking about, which is a YouTube video we've put together on this very topic, where I actually show you on screen me going through and running it through some typical use cases for property investors, and you'll see the output that it comes out with. I think for the most part you'll be very impressed, but I'll give you a warning, towards the end it does take a bit of a turn and it gets a little bit scary. So we'll link to that in the show notes, but you could also find it on our YouTube channel. Just go onto YouTube and search Property Hub UK. So that's us done for this week. Hope you've enjoyed it. And do let us know if you find any cool uses for AI in your property endeavours. We're on all the socials at Property Hub UK. And we haven't been replaced just yet, so we will be back next Thursday for another episode. So until then, have a great week and we'll see you soon. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.